What's going on, everybody? Welcome into a fresh hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Jacqueline D'Agostino. We have to start on the diamond because the MLB trade deadline day, it is officially here. That deadline again at 6 p.m. Eastern today. And we've already seen some big moves. Eugenio Suarez having a reunion of sorts. That is a big one. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. But we're excited, of course. And you know who else is very excited? That is our MLB insider, Jim Bowden, posting this out on X saying, "Happy MLB trade deadline day, everyone. Let the chaos begin." So let's get into some of that chaos, and we'll recap you on some of the trades that went down. This one was late last night in Seattle with the Mariners getting the big name that has been out there around the trade deadline in Eugenio Suarez. Already has 30-plus homers for the fourth time in the last 5 years, on pace for 50 homers this season. And he joins another big bat in Seattle by a guy named Cal Raleigh. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but the Mariners, again, try to claim the AL West and beyond. And the Blue Jays making some moves this morning, acquiring former Cy Young Award winner Shane Bieber from the Guardians. That's according to multiple reports out there. Bieber hasn't appeared in a major league game this season. The 30-year-old right-hander had Tommy John surgery last April and has been on a rehab assignment in recent weeks and could be nearing a return. Most recently threw 57 pitches in a start with the Guardians' Double-A team in Akron on Tuesday. And the latest move that we've seen coming down involves the Padres and the A's. So the Padres getting a closer in Mason Miller in a trade with the Athletics. And also interesting, the Padres are also going to be receiving lefty starter J.P. Sears in that deal. And there were some rumors around there about Dylan Cease and that he could possibly get dealt. So it's interesting that the Padres now get a closer and then also a starter. So what does that mean for Cease? We're going to talk about it in just a moment. But let's welcome in Matt Snyder as we were just a few hours away from the official deadline, Matt. Let's start here with the Padres because they get Mason Miller here. They also get a starter in Sears. So what does this all mean for Dylan Cease? Because we talked about this yesterday where their situation with him, even though they are contenders and they're in a wild card spot, it's very convoluted with how they're going to be approaching this Dylan Cease situation.
Yeah, there are all kinds of moving parts to this. So first of all, there is a chance that the Padres want to move Mason Miller back into a starting pitching role. That's what he came up with the Athletics in 2023. Before he went down and had to have surgery, he came back as a closer, a dominant closer last season. Everybody thought if he got traded, it was going to be as a closer. And I don't think that you want to convert a guy from reliever to starter in the middle of the season, but you never know with A.J. Preller. He's a mad scientist. Let's just say that Miller sticks in the bullpen for the rest of the season. Now you're talking about Robert Suarez, Jason Adam, Adrian Morejon. That's 3 All-Stars getting another All-Star in that Padres bullpen. Now you look at the rotation. J.P. Sears joins Nick Pivetta, Dylan Cease, Yu Darvish, Randy Vasquez, Ryan Berger, and Michael King is just about to go on a rehab assignment. Now, that leaves them the option to trade Dylan Cease. There's still 6 starters left once King comes back if they do trade Cease for some help on offense. Again, though, we don't know for sure if they're going to move Mason Miller into the rotation now or not. I still, like I said, I don't think they should try to do it in season, but you never know. They could do that. They have enough bullpen arms already. It's going to be really fun to see how everything is sorted out. A note on J.P. Sears. I know his ERA is really, really ugly, but a lot of that is he's been getting so knocked around in Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. Moving away from there, that's not his home anymore. Petco Park is a lot more pitcher-friendly. This might be a really good move for J.P. Sears.
So, Matt, also, we saw the trade details there, and the A's also getting the number 3 prospect in all of baseball. So tell us a little bit about him, and then overall just grade the trade for both sides here.
Well, DeVries is down in high A, so he's a few years away from joining the majors. This is a long-term move by the A's, but you're talking about a shortstop who our prospect guru, R.J. Anderson, ranked as the number 3 prospect in all of baseball just a month ago. So you're talking about a top 3 prospect going in a deal for what looks like, at least right now, a reliever and a marginal starting pitcher. That could be a major coup for the A's down the road. Now, we know that sometimes prospects hit roadblocks. They don't pan out all the way, but it could really potentially be a monster move if Leo DeVries develops the way everybody thinks he might, because he looks like a potential 5-tool superstar. Maybe the low batting average, but he gets on base, he runs, he hits for power. He might be a superstar here in 3, 4, 5 years, and everybody might be saying, man, the A's really committed highway robbery on the Padres on that deal.
Isn't it fun when we look back at trades, 3 years down the road and see, what could have been? Let's get back to the trade deadline, because the Blue Jays, probably one of the more surprising teams to be in the position that they're in if we, think back to May or so. But they're making some moves. They get Shane Bieber. He hasn't played a game in the majors so far this season, but he is on a rehab assignment, and he could be nearing a return. So how much does he move the needle for Toronto in your eyes?
I really, really like this move. It's there's a little bit of risk involved, obviously, and he has a player option for next season. So if he doesn't exercise that, he becomes a free agent. But there's a chance he really, really enjoys his time in Toronto. He exercises the player option, and he stays put for next year. On the rehab assignments, he looks like Shane Bieber. 21 strikeouts against only 1 walk in 11 1/3 innings. That's unbelievable stuff right there. So if you look at the rotation for the Blue Jays, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios, then you've got a 41-year-old Max Scherzer and Eric Lauer, who hasn't really been good in a rotation for a full season through his career. Now you throw Bieber in that mix, and you're talking about a potential playoff rotation where it's possible Bieber looks like an ace at that time. You got Bieber, Gausman, Bassett, Barrios. You could use Scherzer in any kind of hybrid role you want, or you could take one of those guys and move to the bullpen and put Scherzer in the rotation. Lauer would be a bullpen guy then, and we know the Blue Jays could probably use some bullpen help, but if you have that many starters and they're all throwing well, that just helps the bullpen for the postseason. I really, really love this move for the Blue Jays.
And we just showed the AL East standings. I think it's the first time that I've seen it on a show where we're no longer getting plus money for the Blue Jays to win the division. Yeah. The Yankees have been favored in that division for so long, even despite what we've seen over the last 2 months, right? Still, it's heating up. Yankees are 4 games out of that top spot. The Red Sox are 5 games out. So what do both of these teams need, Matt, if they want to make a push and take the division crown away from the Blue Jays?
Well, since Dylan Cease is fresh in my mind, I'll bring up the Red Sox right here, and I'll say we just saw a rumor that the Padres are trying to get Jarren Duran from the Red Sox. You know the Red Sox have extra outfielders. They're looking for starting pitching help. They might want to get out of the rest of Duran's contract there. The Padres, we talked about maybe moving Cease to add major league talent. You add Duran, that's a bat. They've needed a left fielder all year. That might be a really good match right there. And then all of a sudden, you insert Dylan Cease in the Red Sox rotation, along with Garrett Crochet, Lucas Giolito, Brian Bayo, and even if Walker Buehler can get things together down the stretch, that looks like a formidable Red Sox rotation for the rest of August and September. And then if they make the playoffs for October. So that's something that really kind of intrigued me that we just saw on the rumor mill. In terms of the Yankees, they still need a starting pitcher, I believe, but what we're seeing the most smoke on is relievers right now. Guys like Griffin Jacks, David Bednar. We'll see how the Yankees swing there. I still think Sandy Alcantara would be a really nice move for Brian Cashman, kind of buy and low a little bit, but he put together things in the last 2 starts and looked great. Big lights won't be a problem for Sandy Alcantara. I really like that match there, but all we're hearing right now is Yankees in on relievers.
And yeah, there are some reports swirling out there, Matt. There always are. This time of the day, Sandy to the Yankees, potentially one of the teams. It's funny. I was watching the game last night against the Rays, and I'm like, oh, Giancarlo, former Marlin, Jazz Chisholm, former Marlin, and now Sandy might be following that same pathway.
It's a pipeline.
Literally. Speaking of pitching here, I want to talk about Joe Ryan, because he is probably the best starting pitcher, or top pitcher, available out there, right? One of them. And for a minute, there was a sense that the Twins were going to hold on to him, but what do you think ultimately happens? Because it feels like hour by hour, it kind of shifts as to what's going to go down with Joe Ryan.
Yeah, a few days ago, I didn't think that they were going to do it. He's still under team control for a few more years, but after they traded Johan Duran, there's so many rumors about Griffin Jacks. Now we're starting to hear stuff about Carlos Correa and maybe trying to get out of that contract. If the Twins are doing that, they're ripping the Band-Aid off and they're selling everybody. So maybe Joe Ryan will be on the move, and he is the guy right now for the Twins that would bring back the most in a trade. You're talking about an elite-looking starting pitcher. He's an all-star this year. It looks like there might be another gear in there, and he continues to improve at the major league level. Several years of team control back. Somebody like the Cubs would make a ton of sense here. They have all kinds of talent at the upper levels of the minor leagues, position player talent that would attract somebody like the Twins, and they need a starting pitcher right now to fill out that rotation around Matthew Boyd, Shota Imanaga, and then when Jameson Taillon comes back from injury, they're looking for a 4th playoff starter who they can put in front of Taillon. Ryan would look like an ace in that rotation. Then you've got Boyd and Imanaga as a really nice 2 and 3. That's the destination that makes the most sense there. I just have a concern right now. as a Cubs fan, that Jed Hoyer is being really, really conservative, and that won't happen. But hey, hopefully I'm wrong. That is the fit that makes the most sense right now to me for Joe Ryan.
All right, fingers crossed for you, Matt, and that your Cubs will not be conservative and they'll be aggressive in the next few hours here. Matt, we appreciated getting us ready for that trade deadline again, just a few hours away at 6 p.m. Eastern, getting a look at the odds to win the World Series. The Dodgers, they are the favorites to run it back at plus 220. The Mets plus 850. Then we have the Phillies and the Yankees at 9-1.